Hello, friends. It's truly heartwarming to see you again and meet and see newcomers. Let's share a brief grounding practice, and we'll do a state check-in, followed by a teaching on the mindfulness of the body. We'll find a little break in there somewhere, and as with each session, spend some time together with questions and conversation, and finish with a dedication. So, as you settle into stillness, sense that you're pausing, arriving in presence with a gentle attention. Notice the state of your body right now. Take a full deep breath and release it slowly, feeling the sensations of the exhale as your breath moves through your chest, your throat, and nostrils. Now allow your breath to resume its natural rhythm and sense that you can relax. Feel the embrace of gravity and how the earth is supporting you. Bring your attention to yourself seated here and allow your eyes to close and relax more fully. Let the eyes and face be soft. Loosen the jaw. Let the shoulders relax and the arms and hands rest easily so you're seated with a sense of dignity and alertness, and at the same time, a deep invitation to presence and relaxation. Take a deep breath and exhale fully. Take another deep breath in through the nose. Exhale fully from the mouth, relaxing as you do. Take another deep breath and exhale fully, letting go of all the tension and busyness of the day. Arriving in this moment. So, I am Michael. There is affection, settling, arriving, and just a bit of nervousness. I'm with Remember Presence. This is the second session of the introduction to mindfulness meditation, ideas and practices. Last week we spoke about mindfulness and meditation, a little history, a summary, and we dipped into mindfulness of breath, using the breath as an anchor. And naturally, into mindfulness of the body to a certain extent because, as we said, the breath is in the body. And the most wonderful thing about that is the body's always in the present moment, no matter where our attention is. So we begin with one of the most well-known of the quotes from the Buddha. There is one thing when cultivated and regularly practiced that leads to deep spiritual intention, to peace, to mindfulness, and clear comprehension, to vision and knowledge, to a happy life here and now, and to the culmination of wisdom and suffering. And what is that one thing? Mindfulness centered on the body. So this evening, I'll explore the importance of being in our bodies, what happens when we leave, and how we can connect with our bodies to practice mindfulness of embodiment. At the outset, I'd like to acknowledge the sponsor of this teaching on mindful embodiment, the brain. As we begin to speak about mindful embodiment, I think it's natural to start by briefly considering how our mindfulness practices actually impact our brain. Research shows that these practices can lead to enhanced neural functioning. Mindfulness meditation changes our brains. Neuroscientist Dan Siegel, in his Pocket Guide to Interpersonal Neurobiology, says in interpersonal neurobiology, the term brain is used as a shorthand reference for the neural mechanisms of the whole of the energy and information flow that moves throughout the extensive interconnections of the body proper and the skull-based collection of cells in the head. For short, brain is a way of referring to the embodiment, to the, embodied mechanism of the information flow in the body. And how we focus our attention specifically activates certain regions of the skull-based brain, enabling us to selectively turn on certain regions, which creates the possibility of inducing structural changes in the brain. According to author of Trauma-Sensitive Mindfulness, David Treleaven, one of the better-known mindfulness meditation research findings is that it correlates with thicker prefrontal areas of the brain. Meditators have greater activation in the prefrontal cortex. Given that the prefrontal cortex helps us observe our experience and exert executive control over compulsions from the emotional brain, the relation to mindfulness makes sense. Mindfulness allows us to witness thoughts, sensations, and emotions without being identified with them. So I always feel the need to give a nod to the brain when talking about embodiment. Not every meditation engages the body. So last week I mentioned a variety of different styles and types, and it can be mantra meditations or meditating on a candle or loving kindness practices. In fact, there's a really common misunderstanding that in some way, meditation is all about transcending the body, entering into, this realm of crystal rainbows of light and the formless dimensions, just sometimes maybe. And yet it's really right at the center of every experience of waking up, this capacity to be awake in the body. You might ask, why is it so essential? Why do we have to be awake in the body? What makes it so important? Mindfulness of the body allows us to live fully. It brings healing, wisdom, and freedom. Our human body is precious, and it provides the necessary conditions to realize true happiness. When we are present in our bodies, we discovered how our body responds when our mind is clear and when it's confused, when our heart is open or closed. The body is always with us in this life. We can return to it over and over. investigating the nature of reality through the body. When we're awake in the body, we're present right here and now. If you think of the moments in your life that were most enlivening or happy or gratifying or meaningful, maybe moments outside in nature or with someone you love or at a birth or meditating, when you really get a sense of peace, you had to be fully in your body to experience it, to register what was happening. So in February 2010, I was able to see the Dalai Lama in Washington, D.C. at a Mind and Life conference. He had just come out with his book on happiness. On the local news, the evening of the first day, one of the news reporters said one of the news reporters that was interviewing him asked him about the happiest moment in his life. So he paused, the Dalai Lama, and he got this mischievous look that he gets. And he said, "I think now." I love that response. If we reflect in the other direction, if you think of moments when you were really suffering, moments that were really difficult, when you were in a lot of conflict with another person or experiencing fear or self-aversion, the common denominator of experiences of suffering are that we are in some way disconnected from our body, maybe even at war with our body. Pema Chodron writes, "It's also helpful to realize that this body that we have, that is sitting here right now with its aches and pleasures, is exactly what we need to be fully human, fully awake, fully alive." So one of the goals of the practice we're cultivating is really inhabiting a full presence. And the domain of the body is the energetic substrata of every other experience, of emotions, thoughts, perceptions. They're all experienced on a physical level. Everything arises from what we touch, smell, see, or hear. I think most of us can embrace that idea. But after decades of practice, I can testify that often enough it's not easy to be fully present and awake in the body. For most of us, I think, without the intention to be here and now, we leave our bodies all the time. We're conditioned to leave. When we're stressed, upset, uncomfortable, or worrying, we want to move away from the present moment and those feelings, so we leave. And the more anxious we are, the faster we leave. Likewise, when something is pleasurable, we're conditioned to hold on to it, to grasp for more of it, which also moves us away from the aliveness of the present moment. As Tara Brach explains, our survival instinct is to control things. So to really inhabit this body, we must be willing to surrender into what it feels like, out of control. Yet we are more comfortable with control. And when we are controlling, we're in our minds, not our bodies. And this creates a mind-body split. When we're in our heads, thinking and worrying about the future or stuck with regret and sadness in the past, we cannot be truly present and alive in our bodies. So we try to control things using this mental control tower perched on the top of our body. And that's often mediated by technology, especially the cyber world. The more that we're involved online, the more we're looking at screens, the more dissociated we are from our bodies. So I worry about my granddaughters, Grace and Isla, the new grandson, Walker, when I allow myself that luxury. The statistics show that kids spend 5 to 6 hours a day looking at screens. Here's a story. One mom finds her young son outside of the front steps playing a video game. And she asks, what are you doing? And he said, well, you told me to go outside and play. But think of it. This generation spends half as much time playing outside as parents did. And this body-mind split also gets exacerbated by patriarchal religions that mistrust the feminine, mistrust the body, mistrust the earth, and want to dominate. And our culture fosters an identification with the body as separate, as something to be acted upon. We identify with outer appearance and are conditioned to view our bodies as objects to be manipulated. So try to fix our bodies, buff our bodies, medicate our bodies. And this removes us from the activity of inhabiting our bodies. Philosopher John O'Donohue writes, our bodies know that they belong to life, that they belong to spirit. It's our minds that make our life so homeless. So what happens when we leave our bodies? We become disconnected. To push away and leave our bodies, it takes energy. So then there's fatigue. And there's also anxiety about what we're not paying attention to and what we are pushing away. When we dissociate from our bodies, we often develop unhealthy escape habits, such as leaving by numbing with food, or obsessing, or by locking into judgment. Excuse me. I remember a cartoon. There's a man and a woman sitting in their living room, and the woman saying, if I ever turn into a vegetable, please just pull the plug. At which point, he goes over to the TV set and yanks the cord. So we get cut off. We get cut off from our heart because when we leave, we're not feeling this domain that allows us to experience warmth and tenderness and openness, where we feel connection. We get cut off from our belly, which is really the center of feeling authentic power. And from the pelvic region, the creativity and sensuality of our lives, our sexuality, we get cut off. Finally, when we're dissociated, we're living in a virtual reality. We're not getting the messages of our body's intelligence and our heart's wisdom. So instead, we're reacting to the world out of fight, flight, or freeze. We're in reaction mode. And we're usually reacting in unwise ways. A situation well exemplified by the two hunters that are somewhere in the woods of southern Jersey. And one hunter, by mistake, he looks around and all of a sudden he sees his friend on the ground. And it turns out his friend has had a heart attack. So he panics and he calls 911. He's got a signal, calls 911, and he's like, emergency, emergency, you got to help me. My friend just died. What do I do? And the woman that's speaking to him says, calm down, sir, calm down. First, make sure that he's dead. And there's a shot heard in the background. And then he goes back to the phone. Okay, what next? Sorry, that's a terrible example. Okay, so part one is why is it essential to be in our bodies? And part two is the suffering that comes when we leave. So the third part is, and this is the domain that we're exploring right now, how do we offer practices of reconnecting? which is really what we're here to learn about, to do these practices of reconnecting. And one of the images I think is so valuable, offered by Joseph Campbell, he describes the circle of awareness. And there's this horizontal line going through the circle. And it's annotated to show that everything that's below the line is out of our conscious awareness. And everything that's above the line is what we're aware of. And as we deepen our attention, the line moves. There's more and more in the light of awareness. And so what we're doing in our mindfulness of the body practices is including more and more in awareness that we've habitually pushed under. So that's part of the waking up. So how do we do that? One of the first elements that we talked about last week in the session on the breath is that we have identified or pre-identified an anchor, a sensory anchor, feeling touch points in the body or feeling the breath, or it could be sound, that helps us to come out of that mental control tower where we're lost in virtual reality. Come back here, come back, over and over again. And a powerful question is really to keep asking, well, what is the difference between being in any thought and being right here in this living reality? Behind the practices of reconnecting, there's an attitude that's really key, which is with all the re-entering and re-inhabiting the body, it's really essential that it's gentle, that it's slow, it's with interest and with care. It's not shocking. But we wouldn't leave if we weren't afraid of what's here. Think about that. So both in the ways that we invite others in, we invite ourselves in. It really needs to be very forgiving that we've left and gentle about arriving. And the anchor is a very beautiful support for that. It's like the anchor shows us when we've left. Oh, okay, gone, 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 come back. Gives us a way and a place to come back to. It gives us a way to collect our scatteredness. So one of the tools that's central is the body scan. There are a lot of ways to do it, and very often it's a meditation guided by another. The key element with the body scan is it's this systematic arriving in different parts of the body and without interfering, just opening to the experience that's there. And I found that one of the most powerful ways of inviting attention in the body scan is the language of feeling things from the inside out. To begin by sensing what it's like. If you feel your hand and you rub your hands together and you feel the surfaces, the outer surfaces of your hand that you can feel that fairly quickly. And then invite people, and you can do it right now for a moment, just to hold your hand still and feel from the inside out how much aliveness is there. And to become more and more familiar with feeling from the inside out throughout your body. It begins to wake up what's sometimes described as the inner body or the energy body. Psychotherapist and researcher Judith Blackstone writes, inhabiting the body is not the same as being aware of the body. It's not a top-down experience. Inhabiting the body means we live within our body, that we're present throughout the whole internal space of our body. It means we feel that we are made of consciousness everywhere in our body. So adjust yourself in your seat to find a comfortable posture. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. So this is the direction we go with the body scan to get more and more familiar with inhabiting our body versus peering down on it or manipulating it in some way. So there's the anchor and the coming back. There's the scanning and all the different ways of scanning and feeling from the inside out. The movement of sensations, noticing where sensation is, noticing the different qualities of sensation. So it becomes more and more refinement and sort of an enabling to name what's being experienced. And it can be very, very powerful. The notation, mental notation. So we call it noting at the beginning to refine that sensitivity, to be able to know burning, squeezing, twisting, heat, cool, itching, just to be able to sense that, to really begin to ask some questions, to inquire of the body. What's happening inside me? Can I be with this? Bring a real profound presence right to the body. And we begin to trust that we can be here. So this is a poem I love from poet Dana Falls. She says, trust the energy that courses through you. Trust, then take surrender even deeper. Be the energy. Don't push anything away. Follow each sensation back to its source in vastness and pure presence. Emerge so new, so fresh, that you don't know who you are. Welcome in this season of monsoons. Be the bridge across the flooded river and the surging torrent underneath. Be unafraid of consummate wonder. Be the energy and blaze a trail across the clear night sky like lightning. Dare to be your own illumination. So what is it really like right now? So in our practice later this evening, I'll invite you to inhabit your body just for a visit. And it won't be long before you're pulled back into your head, into your thinking mind. But then you can begin to practice returning, much as we practice coming back to our breath when distracted or caught up in our stories. Exactly like that.
Your being.
Excuse me, I just messed with my microphone. Returning to your kind and loving attention, returning your attention to the body. And you develop gifts of the return, the sense of being able to come back. When we dissociate, things get blocked and frozen and stuck. And when we come back in that presence, like the sun on ice, it allows a kind of melting and a movement. And that movement is a sign of healing. So when you pay attention closely and start sensing this constellation of dancing sensations, that's the beginning of healing. To release those blockages and process trauma even. So it's a little early to start talking about that, but if you don't already know, you'll find most of your issues are definitely in the tissues. Coming back into the body allows for a visceral experience in the heart, which opens us up to forgiveness and compassion, the all-embracing heart. It's the portal to wisdom. Be your own illumination. I love that line. that when we come into the body, we start getting a direct insight into the very nature of reality. There's no veil of concepts. So we're seeing radical impermanence. We all have the idea that everything changes, but when we're inhabiting this body, this intensely alive energy field, everything's moving. There's no center, there's no boundary. Unless you have an idea or a thought, there's no way to find a self. So we get a direct realization that there's no self. There's just this amazing, mysterious dance of energy. And when we let go into that inner body, it just further loosens the identification with form, with body, with mind. There's just this formless presence, this living, changing world that doesn't belong to anybody. Be your own illumination. This is the gift of inhabiting with mindfulness this body. And the final thing I'll mention is that we get the blessing of feeling fully alive. Eduardo Galeano says, the church says the body is a sin. Science says the body is a machine. Advertising says the body is a business. The body says, I am a fiesta. So one of the things I'm aware of when we talk about mindfulness of body is it feels very inward. But what we'll be exploring also is that we're not just talking about our own bodies. Our earth would not be suffering the way it is if we were awake to bodies. And that the more we connect in a visceral way with the aliveness here, the more our sensitivity and perceptiveness and care widens out. So we're able to really feel what's going on in the bodies of others. And when we're able to feel the struggle of other beings that, like us, want to live fully and don't want to be oppressed or polluted or in some way disrespected, we sense the needs of our earth, our larger body. So it's a very powerful task at hand for ourselves and those beings we share our world with, in the sense of bringing from below the line into awareness what needs to be attended to. It's a part of the healing of our world. Take 5 minutes for self-care, an invitation to stand and stretch, walk, grab a fresh beverage, whatever. I'll continue to roll and I'll let the bell ring to bring us back. 5 minutes. Okay. So let's set an intention to sit for 10 minutes for the basic mindfulness practice with breath and body. Finding a sitting position that allows you to be alert, spine erect but not stiff, but also relaxed, or any position that works for you. Kindly open your attention, starting exactly where you are, in the midst of it all. Gently note your surroundings with your senses. Now, closing your eyes, establishing a simple sense of presence. Now, allowing your awareness to scan through your body and, wherever possible, softening and releasing obvious areas of physical tension. You might take a few very full cleansing breaths and then allow your breath to be natural. Notice how the breath breathes itself, bringing your attention to where you most easily detect the breath, or perhaps where it's most pleasurable. Letting this place of experiencing the breath be your home base, an anchor to the present moment. So noticing this breath right here. So if the breath is not a good home base for you, you might instead anchor your attention in the sensation of your hands or the sensations of your whole body sitting here. So I invite you to choose your anchor for this meditation now. Now, with a relaxed, interested attention, discovering what the sensations of the breath or your chosen anchor feel like, moment to moment. So where is your attention now? Each time that you notice your mind has wandered off is a moment of mindfulness. Remember that. Gently bringing your attention back to the inflow and outflow of the breath or your chosen anchor, offering a relaxed, wakeful presence. Now scanning your body and noticing if any particular sensations are strong and calling your attention. If so, allowing the breath or your home base to recede to the background and bringing an interested, kind presence to the sensation. So, what do they feel like? You might be aware of heat or chills, tingling, aching, twisting, stabbing, vibrating. So, with a soft, open awareness, feeling the sensations as they are, noticing, are they pleasant or unpleasant? As you fully attend to them, do they become more intense or dissipate? Noticing how they change. When the sensations are no longer a strong experience, returning to mindfulness of breath or your chosen anchor. So returning is the key. Return to the breath or chosen anchor 1,000 times if necessary. It's like training a puppy. If you find it difficult to stay with strong sensations, you might breathe with them, letting the breath help you find some balance and openness in the midst. As suggested, it can also be helpful to name the sensations, seeing if there's a word that describes your experience: tightness, ache, heat, pressure. There's no need to strain or to run through a mental thesaurus to find the right word. Notice what word arises in awareness and mentally repeat it to yourself in a soft tone, letting the naming be soft in the background, like 5% of your attention, with 95% on the actual experience. You might ask yourself, what is happening inside me now? Noticing any sensations that are predominant, and then ask, can I be with this? Directly feeling the flow of sensation, subtle or strong, letting life be just as it is. Now, returning to your home base, again, the breath or an anchor of particular sensations, offering a calm, steady attention. And if during this last minute or so strong sensations call for your attention, letting your primary anchor recede and bringing a full attention again to what's arising, naming what you notice, offering your presence. If nothing is calling your attention, continue to rest with your home base, relaxed and alert. Sensing the breath in the foreground, still aware of the field of sensations in the background. You are learning to be centered, balanced, and present for the breath and the living world of sensation, which is wisely aware of this changing life. Well done. So next Sunday, we'll navigate the slider up or out, the 4 foundations of mindfulness that the historical Buddha taught about in the Satipatthana Sutra, from mindfulness of the body to mindfulness of feelings. And as the mind encounters bodily energies, mindfulness of emotions. And we'll do that for each of our course meetings, if you were present with me simultaneously, we would take these last few minutes for questions and answers. And I would be happy to see a Zoom hand or a real hand or just an open microphone. But this is suchness. Next time. Many contemplative traditions with practices, rituals, focused learning, and dialogue close their meeting with a dedication practice. It's not keeping what's good just for ourselves and our immediate circle of loved ones. It's a radical act of generosity. I think it's a nice habit. So let us dedicate all the value accrued through prayer, contemplation, meditation, and practice for the benefit of all beings and to the incomparable expanse of totality. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Come back and see me next Sunday. Stop into the Remember Presence platform. Find some other folks in the community to learn with. Meet some new friends, community members. And until we see you again, be so well.